everyone, I hope you're well. Normally when you hear people who have just gone back from a solo trip, you hear, oh my God, it was so amazing. I had the best time. I made so many friends. I was never alone. I didn't want to leave. You should go. It will change your life. And honestly, they're probably not wrong, but what you don't know, or what they probably most likely don't tell you, is that this euphoric feeling that they're having right now most likely did not last the entirety of their trip. I'd actually go as far to say that the majority of people who go on a solo trip will experience some level of loneliness at some point or several points along their trip. This is completely normal and it should absolutely not scare you away from going. You just need to know that it can happen and that it's okay. If you do head out on a big trip of a lifetime, nothing can stop me, but then you do start to feel these feelings of loneliness and emptiness, I don't want you freaking out, because it is something that you can overcome whilst you're still traveling, and it's not something that has to ruin your trip. If anything, you'll be thankful that it happened, because it's a struggle that you have battled and have come out the other side a stronger person. So there could be a few reasons that you start to feel lonely on a solo trip. One, you are traveling somewhere where there are no other backpackers there. First of all, this is rare and not always safe, so wherever you are, get the hell back to your hostel where there are other people there. And two, there are other travelers there who you may or may not interact with, and they're shit. They're just rubbish travel companions, and this is actually the more common reason. Either they're not nice or pleasant people, or more innocently, they just can't be bothered to meet new people and nobody's personalities are clicking. And that's not their fault and it's not your fault. It's just a luck thing, really. We're not going to get along with every single person that we meet along our travels. I have personally found that a factor in this is specific locations and the kind of people that you meet in those locations. For example, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Central America, very easy places to travel solo with lower risks of feeling lonely, because mostly there's loads of backpackers, loads of hostels. It's a more simple way of life, less rules, everything's cheap. All of these factors meaning you're more likely to meet people full stop, but moreover, you're more likely to meet people who are on the same wavelength as you. Somewhere where I personally would not voluntarily go solo traveling, again for the purpose of loneliness, is the USA. And maybe some of you could disagree with me on this, but I was traveling by myself in California. I stayed in a hostel to maximize my chances of meeting people, and I did meet a couple of people, but they were so meh. It was like hanging with people that I didn't really click with just for the sake of it. And I think it's because the US typically isn't really a place where backpackers go hostel hopping and get around everywhere on public transport. You kind of need your own car to get off the beaten track, and that's really fun to do with friends or on a tour. I would say it's like a good place to go solo on a tour. The people I did meet just seemed closed off, like they had other plans, like they were just sort of in transit, which, to be fair, was actually kind of the situation that I was in as well. And I did do some really cool stuff while I was there, but I was lonely because all of the other travelers just seemed quite detached. I was fine because I knew that I was soon to be flying out and I had my destination planned and everything like that. This was literally just before I was about to fly to Maine to do Camp America. But what happens if you're not in transit? What happens if you're in Thailand, Vietnam, Nicaragua, Guatemala, and you're doing some incredible things with other travelers who are just meh? You pack your bags and you move on to the next location. If there are still some specific things that you want to do in that location that you're currently in, you pack your bags and you move hostels. It's as simple as that. You're traveling solo, and you've got to remember and thrive off the fact that you can do anything that you want. You don't have to answer to anybody. You can be as flexible as you want, and you can make your own decisions without having to compromise for anybody. Don't be afraid to not stick to your original plan, and the same goes for if you meet a really cool group of people, or a special boy or a special girl who you really want to hang out with a little bit longer, or maybe they're going somewhere that you weren't planning on going. Go there, have fun, enjoy yourself. Don't let the fact that you might have had an original plan stop you. Scrap your plans to spend more time with them. Be spontaneous and let that excite you. But anyway, back to loneliness. If you're feeling lonely, change your surroundings. If you're still feeling lonely, change again. Eventually, you will come out of this spell, and it will probably happen when you least expect it. Never try to force friendships or force yourself to hang out with people just because they're people to hang out with and you don't actually want to, because that's going to make you just as sad as the feeling of loneliness. If you are feeling lonely, try to focus focus on embracing the challenge of doing things solo. If you start to accomplish things that you know you've done completely on your own, it's incredibly liberating. So try to home in on those feelings and think, yes, this is outside of my comfort zone and I'm going to be a badass right now and overcome this challenge. If you're concentrating on that and not fretting about the fact that you don't have any friends, you are going to become so much more attractive to the people who will end up being your friends without you even knowing. And that will in turn pull you out of this period of loneliness that you might be experiencing. But what is really important to remember is that it's okay to not be okay. You're not incompetent or weird for having these feelings, because actually it's not just about being lonely and having no friends or whatever. The feeling of loneliness or being alone can come even when you do have people to hang out with and you're like, I've made friends, but why am I still not happy? Firstly, you still came on this trip alone, so it will always be you against the world. But I find when I start to feel lonely or upset for seemingly what feels like no reason, it's normally because I've lost my direction and my purpose of travel. I get caught up in all of the fun things that I'm doing, but then it all of a sudden hits me like, what am I doing here? What am I achieving? What's the point of all of this? These questions, if you find yourself asking yourself these questions on your trip, it's normally because you're starting to feel quite lost. My biggest tip for when this happens is to try to give yourself a purpose. And the easiest way to do this is go do something new, or even better, learn a new skill. Wherever you are in the world, there is always going to be something new that you can learn. Examples, go to a few language classes, local cooking classes, scuba diving course, surf lessons, local dance classes, photography practice. When you give yourself something to focus on, it can really help give you some direction, give you some purpose for your travels, and it will also really help if you're experiencing loneliness too. Even if you're not particularly meeting new people, though you are more likely to if you're doing classes and stuff, but that's not the main reason that you're doing it. And something to think about, it's normally at this point when a traveler has gone through some sort of mental block or difficulty but made a change so that they're doing better now, they've learned lessons, they've become stronger. They start saying things like, I found myself, or I discovered myself. You know those cliche sayings that backpackers always say. A lot of the time it is true, and this is what they've been through to make them say these cheesy, cringy lines like that. Loneliness and other mental struggles are common when you solo travel. It's not a bad thing. Well, yes, it does feel shitty at the time, but it's so important to always remember the bigger picture, that it's okay to not be okay. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry it's been a bit all over the place at times, but to summarize, feelings of loneliness are very common with many backpackers at some point in their trip. It's not something that can properly be initially prevented, but it's definitely something that you can overcome. And I encourage you to persevere to overcome by changing your surroundings and viewing loneliness as a challenge to overcome and embracing that challenge. I've made a few other videos in this solo travel motivation series, so I'll link them down below. If there's any topic in particular that you would like me to cover that I haven't already, do let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!